Thanks so much, Helena, for inviting us to come here to meet you. It's such a beautiful place and beautiful day. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about your life and what's important to you and how you're dealing with these times of transition.
Yeah, it's really nice having you here, and I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you. So we were looking for somewhere where we could settle down and produce our food and not having to commute and also be part of the local society and all these things that were. It was the early 1990s and we had been looking also abroad but around Sweden as well, and it was this seemed to be a good place. So we also knew that somehow we had to attract people, and there are already people on this island because it's a touristic place. It has been for quite a while, last 100 years more or less, even if it's really a lot now. But so we were thinking of, okay, this is part of the income can be the tourist kind of. That's part of the energy coming into this project here. But our main aim has always been to inspire people to live lighter and to have good solutions for a more healthy lifestyle and take care of the planet and so on. And in the 90s, I mean, this is something we talk about with our kids. It's like in the 90s, it was revolution enough to start growing carrots.
Yeah.
Now it's not anymore, and we need more. So we managed to buy this piece of land, which is a very narrow strip. It's like 80 meters or 70, 80 meters, and it's 1.5 kilometers long.
Wow.
So it's 8 hectares in total. You see the mountain there way back. There's a field, and then there's a little cliff with a sculpture on it, and that's where the nature reserve starts. From there we can kind of just take some wood and so on, but not really do anything. But when we came, this was total forest, and it was forest here. But that area has been open earlier, like in the early 1920s, when people produced their food here. They needed land, of course. But we saw the potential because of, I think, our knowledge, especially from permaculture, was like reading the landscape. How do we see the landscape is situated, the aspect of the landscape with the facing south, and it's like a hot spot.
It really is. And you feel that you're in a pocket, kind of.
Yeah, it's a pocket, yeah. So I think that was one of the first things that we really felt. And then we had this plan of, okay, slowly building up and starting to live here. And it's slowly kind of starting to manage the land. And so we had the idea, okay, we will take some years before we can settle down and earn our money from this place. And before that, we had, like, Stefan he was working at the university in Uppsala, Agriculture University. And I started working with local EU projects here, but still kind of not in the project. But we knew that we had to kind of earn money first, and then after a while, some years, then we can, okay, this will be our main income. We had the fantastic opportunity to go woofing before we settled down here. We were around 1 year.
Wow.
And with the first kid, and we were woofing and working on farms in Australia, New Zealand, and America, and Hawaii. I think that was very important for us. We were thinking, okay, how should we live our lives? What can we earn money on, and what will take money? And we were very kind of eager and systematic. It was this before computer time. It was all by hand, and like a kind of Excel sheet, but it was handmade. And okay, this is very important. This is less important, and blah blah. And we knew what we were looking for, and I think that was a help. And we knew what we wanted to do, even if, like, reality is not like it's different from how things could be. I mean, we were thinking of, it would be nice to have a kind of cafe where we can work sometimes. And after some years built this cafe, we the hard way got to understand that it's really, really a lot of work.
Yeah.
So maybe if I had known that, we would have taken another way. I don't know. It's a nice thing to have, but it has taken a lot of energy.
Yeah. Is it a main sort of financial factor for the farm?
It is in a way, but it also costs a lot of money. And during the period, I mean, it does attract people, and it also has quite a lot of turnover. So it can sustain itself, and it holds a lot of employees and so on. But it also costs. Yeah, of course.
All the regulation as well, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. Yeah. Now we are very happy during this period, because now that we have kind of, even if we own it, and it's two different companies here.
Okay.
So this is a cooperative, but we still own the main piece, and the people who work there are employed, but they just take care of everything. So it's just, we don't do anything, and that's just it's so good people. So it's fantastic. Really nice. They do it as employees, but they but they really do it now. For example, now during this period, now when we are thinking of, or we have decided to sell, they are also very interested in, okay, how can we be part of the new situation? So we are also talking a lot of that.
How do you see that happening?
The company that is in charge of operation and own that, whereas maybe there's someone else who has some money could own the actual buildings and the farm. So I think that is a possibility to have found someone. Yeah. And it's the same, also have a great girl with me working in the garden, who's also wanting to carry on and to, Here is a lot of people. You can see amount of chairs, and it's like heaps of lunches, and so we cannot produce everything. It's too small. Yeah. But we produce, like, we can say that the menu sets according to what we have. So during this period we have like spetskål, sparris, herbs and leaves and so on. Okay, they have to add on, because that's not going to be enough. Part of the garden is on the cakes there are flowers, and they're
building on what you have and then adding to that rather than the other way around.
As much as possible. So, but anyway, when we started, it took some time, because we opened up and we used pigs and hens and a lot of handwork. It's always been a lot of handwork here. And I think if we build systems that are hand-worked, I think they will survive better, because the energy is like, okay, we are great kind of animals. We can easily work by hand. We are good, like transforming the energy we put into labor. And I often think that, okay, sometimes we think, we should need a machine to do this, to take out this gravel or anything. And then we're 5 people and whoops, it's done. And it's interesting. I think so many times that has been like that. Of course, we're not like no machines. That's not the thing.
But so working with your hands close.
You get close to it.
You do. And then you feel like, also you feel the soil in a different way when you're doing it that way. You know, you feel like you just want to protect it. So I agree with you totally that the more handwork you can do, and in our sort of globalized industrial system, it's all just about technology. It's all just about computer screens. Even people sitting in tractors are now just looking at computer screens.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like you don't have the people who are working in ecology have no contact with the ecology anymore.
No.
And you have to have that hands in the soil and that closeness with the plants to really be, I think, doing ecology work while you're doing agriculture work.
I mean, of course, I think we have to be kind of not rigid. There's very good things with the high technology, and we're happy to use it right now. Probably in the future it won't be there, so let's kind of use it for a good way. And I think also like building a system where you dig a dam. Of course, there's machines coming in to do this dam. It would be really
insane to do it by hand.
So we have to kind of, where are the good smart ways where we can use the good machines and oil and whatever. Well, we have a tractor and we use it, but it's not like so much. We produce quite a lot. I'm satisfied because we have this land. It's like, I would say 3,000, 4,000 square meters where we have the beds. And we have this greenhouse, which is 100 square meters maybe. But like everything here, everything we use like a stacking principle. Like permaculture has been very, very alive during all the planning and all the processes going on. And the greenhouse is used like for plants, of course, especially in the early spring. We sow everything and we're seeding. It's a seeding space. And then also it's used for exhibitions, and now like she has her little shop there for a few days, and then we have parties and weddings, and tomorrow there's someone having a little conference there, so it's used, and in that way it pays back. And I think that is also important to think, how can we use things in many ways.
Did you use permaculture design from the very beginning?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I did this as my diploma actually. Wow. But if I'm looking back, maybe now I think I understand permaculture. It has taken some 20 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And you will never, I think that's also beautiful. I keep on learning and I'm so thrilled to learn more. And I think that's so beautiful because it's not like a set piece of thing. This is how you should do it. There are some very basic principles, I would say. And stacking is one. And one, it's like slowing down the incoming energies.
Right.
It's like understanding sectors. And what are things coming in? How can I use this thing as many times as possible in my system without it being lost and also kind of maybe polluted or whatever? And money is that way, but also water and wind and people and whatever. How can we use them in our system and in a good way? It's been a very important principle for me. And also, of course, I'm an understanding zones and sectors and stuff like that, the traditional way of looking and using renewable energy, biological solutions.
So for me, the interesting thing with permaculture was it was like the first real hands-on answer to, the Club of Rome's report, and limits to growth. And so for me, it was like an ethical system, but practical ethical system, which is what I was looking for. Like who has an answer that's been working, and permaculture had that. But the design part for me was always like, come on. But as you keep doing it year after year, and now I look at my farm and I go, wow, if I had known, I would have designed it totally differently. So I'm thinking the next farm that I'm going to work on, I'm really going to spend more time observing first and not like rushing into doing stuff, but like spending enough time thinking and planning it and designing it properly. Because there's so many things that if I had designed my farm better, I would have saved so much time.
That's interesting. You have to collect those things. I mean, I think everybody can say that. Even if you had known the design, I think you can always say, okay, this I shouldn't have done that because we learn and everything changes and that's part of life, I would say. But I totally agree. I would also do things different. And that's a good question. There are some very key, bigger things that I would have done differently. For example, we didn't have the backstage where we have the toilets and the way to come in to the back part of the restaurant. And it was kind of crammed and we had to use the same with the everything we came with. They had to come in together with the people. And we were also wanting to lead people into the garden instead of kind of along the road in and seeing this white wall. But then, we looked at it, people want to walk here because it's the main way, it's easier. So how can we do it better? And then we use this wall as our information board. I would say, this is a problem. How can we make it to a solution? And I think we managed there a good way, but I would maybe have planned that from the beginning and understanding instead of many years kind of, let's put a gate there and how can we, But I would say I think we're all designing all the time. It's how to make a decision on something. When I design, it's like I start where something is as a kind of reflection and understand what is itching, what is not good, what is not working here. For example, during the COVID period, we saw a lot of people, they couldn't walk because they can't meet. So we have to, how can we make space? And also that it's nice for people to have more space, even when not COVID. It's nice. So that is one. How can we start to work on that? And we're looking at only a small piece of the farm. How do we move here? It's very practical, and then you can do quite easy designs, and you can teach people very easily.
What is your story personally? How did you end up with permaculture in particular? And what were the drivers? What were the passions for you there, and what still are?
Exactly. It's it's big because kind of permaculture is what I've been sticking to for a long time.
And there's a story how you ended up
absolutely.
doing that.
There's a story, and it's very clear. So I'm an agronomist. I've been in the university in Uppsala in the agriculture university, and I mean the story. Why I was there is I think I'm very much like a humanist, but I was also taught by my family and parents to go into the academics, and academics is more like hardcore nature science. So I ended up doing agronomy, and I had been, before I started it, I was also kind of in India and working with Mother Teresa and doing all these kind of things that I I had always with me.
Yeah.
And I studied this hardcore agronomy, and there was no discussion on ecology as whatever. We started a course that was 2 weeks long, and that was called alternative agriculture. By then, it was not. There wasn't even called. I know it was weird, and I can still meet some of these people, and they say, "Hey, yeah, that was times." So this was 80s. But I still felt, okay, so what am I actually going to do? I was wanting, I think I had one aim was to work like in third world projects, so-called third world then. But then I understanding that that's not the solution, and it will be better to do something here. We need a change here. But by then it wasn't climate crisis. There were crises. We had like the dying of the forest and the polluting of water, and there were things going on. And Stefan and I went to Findhorn in Scotland, and we went actually building a house there, and we were following some of the courses, and it was really eye-opener. And there we saw a film with Bill Mollison, The Global Gardener.
Okay.
And that was for me, okay, it's here. It was great. It was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Here, like in permaculture, for me, it came like an umbrella. I could hang all my stuff in and understand how can we put it together. And I was cooperating with like these elderly people now, like myself, but they were old. They really, Tony Anderson and Bertil Termenius, and also in Norway, Jan Bang. Met him early, and a little later I met Fredrik and Marianne, whom I've been working with since late 1997 or something. And so that's what's my story about permaculture. And I did my course, my PDC 91 or something in Denmark. And after that we went also on this global tour, and we went to Crystal Waters. We met Max Lindegar, and I did an advanced course with him. And then we've been meeting all these Peter Bain and Robin McCurdy, all these people who you can hear about now. Not that they doesn't mean, but it was very influential on me.
Yeah.
And of course I feel that I have it with me, and it's
you were one of the first ones.
I was one of the first ones in Sweden, I think.
Exactly.
Bertil is there, but he's still working a little, I think. But and in Sweden, I think a lot of the permaculture came through academics and architecture. And there was not so much gardening. So we built this project, and then I did my diploma work in '98, and it was community development and this site development, I guess. I can't find it anymore. I don't know where it is.
But it's based on this farm.
It's based on this farm. Yeah. It's a long process, and it's nice to see that it has been part of building an ecosystem, and an ecosystem with all the people that has been part of this place. We haven't done this by ourselves. We've had a lot of hands here. A lot of woofers and people doing practicals from schools. And
it's also, if you think the other way around, you have been the one who has connected all these people in many ways as well. So you've had the help, but also people have found you or this place and through that. So
it's amazing, really. And so people are... I know this place has... I would say now, like you said before, that the place you found is like talk to you. And in a way this did also, but I think now really it has its own spirit. And I think that's so special. I kind of feel now when we want to move, it's not like, okay, we're just going to move and sell and go on. It's okay, we have to listen to this land. What does it want? And to be kind of... and not forget ourselves as well. I mean, we also have a need to... We have put a lot of energy and money and work and whatever. So it's going more and more into perennial stage and need of more trees and more... less open area for annuals. Absolutely. I think.
Is that part of the process of listening to the land?
Yeah. And maybe that's part of also my learning. I mean, during the last... I would say, is it 10 years or 15 years, there's been more discussions on not only forest gardening as a little patch, but okay, what is really the perennials doing in the soil with the fungi, and we're learning so much about the living soil, and of course I feel like, okay, I want to add this, and how is it? I mean, I think we did some analysis on the soil, both through laboratory, but also with a friend of mine who's actually on Orust, and he is very into fungi and bacteria, and he was looking in the microscope, and we see that it's a lot of bacteria in this soil, less fungi. So I said, okay, we have to. That's why we were putting a lot of wood chips and also planting more trees. So that's a part of the regenerating, I would say.
I always think about a farm as like it has its own identity or its own soul, kind of. But especially when you have people that are sort of keystone individuals, like the nucleus of the farm. And then I think about how important all the connections are between all the different species on the farm and those people who are managing it, because it's not a wild ecosystem. It's an ecosystem that connects humans and all kinds of species that wouldn't be there if those people wouldn't be there. And if you take the people out, those species, very likely, a lot of them anyway, will die.
Absolutely.
Maybe not so much with the perennials. I feel really connected to individuals on the farm, not just populations, you know. So there's like the birch tree. There's one birch tree that's like, I feel it's a part of me. It's like, as I put the compost underneath it, you know, so I have that
really feel that,
collecting all the leaves, you know. So you're a part of that thing, and then it's really hard to let go of it. And if you do, you will feel like you really want to make sure that it's supplanted with another nucleus that will, you know, continue to, obviously in a different way, but that will maintain that. You know, we use the word ecosystem. You know?
Yeah, right. That's a nice one.
It's a nice one, actually, because you know you have an ego in there. Ego doesn't necessarily have to be bad.
No. I see what you mean. Yeah. On the other hand, I also think that we have to learn how to let go, because I think that everything is just so much bigger than oneself, and also bigger than this project or whatever. That also is my ego driving me, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do the shift, because then I had to be here. I think I have to just be aware of what can I actually influence. I will do that the best. I've been working on that this last winter here, of how to make beautiful endings. I think it's also very important for us and for everything. I mean, okay, now it's not just running away.
It's not about speed. The start has been quite slow and it has taken time, and you've incrementally. So maybe there's something about that ending as well, that you don't end it like this.
The ending, or the kind of us moving and letting go, is part of our life, but it's not like we don't have to do it now. It's not any crisis for us. So I think the COVID phase has made us had the possibility to think a little more, and a little more space, and then understanding, okay, I don't have to do this rest of my. I also had some problems with my hips. I've had two hip operations, and I feel, okay, maybe this is telling me, let's take it a little slower and just go on with things that are a little easier. Because I've been really hardworking. Both of us have been working very, very hard. Physically, and I mean, I'm Stefan is 64 actually. You saw him, and I'm 58. So I mean, he's absolutely soon. He can go on with things that he doesn't have to think of money too much. So I think, but having time for the ending, I think it's important. And I'm kind of, what we're working on is, of course, finding good people, but also, even if we sell earlier, but I doubt it, but even if we would, I would say, okay, these 2 weeks in May next year, we're going to have this place, and we're going to invite all people who have ever been here working with us, woofers, employees, and they won't come for 2 weeks, but they will come maybe for 3-4 days, and we have like a big festival, and maybe we will do some work, but also I would love there to have someone and do some interviews and make a film in honor of this place. We made a book 10 years back. And that was, okay, this is how we came here and this is how we think. But now, 10 years later, there's another story, and it's not ours, it's the place story. And because I see it like it's really got rooted. It's very rooted in this, but it has also kind of, now it's flowering. And during the last years it has flowered, and seeds have spread. And the seeds are like, I know a lot of people they started a farm there, a restaurant there, and doing all these things, and so I would like to document that. I don't know how, but I have a friend who is a good filmmaker, and I hope we can find some money and he can do this.
And what is this beautiful ending for you? How do you envision that to happen?
I envision it for me to end in a good manner where you can, it's like leaving a long relation. I hope that I can leave here and still be able to come back if it's open, hopefully, and to feel welcome both by the people and by the land. That there's kind of not like, okay, I left this and I don't like it. I'm fed up with some things, but it's not like I really like my job still.
Yeah.
So yeah, a good ending. It has to be planned. It should also be a good ending that also gives us the space to have a good life after. I mean, our children are very, you don't give it away now. Come on, because they always feel that we are so come here and do this and no we don't we don't really earn so much.
Yeah.
We will, when we sell, we will get some money, quite a lot, I guess. I hope. But anyway, I feel that I will also. That's a kind of harvest time, so that's part of a good ending.
Yeah.
It's not like we're wanting to have as much as possible. Our pension has gone here rather than to any other system, which I also think is good. But
we have
so I feel
invested in the land.
Yeah. So the ending has to be good for us,
of course,
both practically and also we want to stay here. We want to live on the island.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And what are you dreaming of doing?
I think my perspective is that I have been given this place a lot of energy, and I've been gardening to sustain the restaurant and some of the clients coming in, like the shoppers and whatever, and of course us as much as possible. But now I think my shift is I see the whole island, and I want to work for the resilience of this island. I think it has also come with, I think mainly a lot with the Ukrainian war. I feel, okay, I don't think that these tourists are the very important people. They can come, but I want to work for us who live here. And we have like a lot of people around me, and we are talking about, okay, can we build a new production place? I might not be like the physical worker, but I will be part of the project, and we can sort it out somehow. And so that was part one. Yeah. And also I really enjoy doing education. I have really worked a lot, and I'm more and more into the social permaculture part, and I'm working a lot with that, like transition, and how can we meet these really hard things that are, how can we still be in grace, värdighet. So keep like straight back and meet what we are going to meet, because it's going to be a hard time. Really hard time.
I agree with you there. I think it resonates what you say a lot, because this idea of sort of downshifting from the physical and moving more over to the social and teaching and reproducing knowledge, not just producing vegetables and reproducing seeds. I think there's a super important, a big need for that these days. There's a lot of hunger for it, and I'm also kind of going through that same sort of chapter where I'm thinking that it makes sense to you sort of move your focus. You've gained all this experience, hands-on experience, and then you've got a whole new generation of people. Like on my farm, people are coming and just don't have that much, have almost no hands-on experience, and they just really are hungry for knowledge. Yeah. And so to be able to then sort of go into a mode where you can still be in beautiful spaces and you can still be able to be a part of the team, but you can use your sort of focus your talents or your abilities to where they're really needed, and also maybe give your body a little bit of a break.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's nice to hear, because maybe it also is part of becoming an elder, and not just all the young, everything. I mean, in our society, everything is young and new, and that is the fresh, and that is the only. But no, it's not like that. I feel very respected here by people who are working with me. So it's not like I have a hard time, but I feel like I want to be part of. Yeah, it's fine to become elder, and how can we do it? That's part of my next step, probably. So if I want to talk about that, I also need to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have connection with some people in Denmark, and we're talking about, okay, how can we do a permaculture course, learning, designing, and like this cultural emergence with using those tools, and accept or go into the elderhood with like full power.
I mean, it's a missing piece to the puzzle, if you ask me. that like I think a lot about our current culture as being in very many ways an infantile culture.
Yeah.
It's all focused on like, what can I get now and how quickly can I get it and how much can I have? And then there's very little thought of like maintaining cohesion in a group. And traditionally that would be the elders' job to always like point out to the kids who are like sort of, you know, being asocial, whatever, to keep them united. And I think in these times that we're heading into, there's a real lack of elders. There's a lack of grown-ups. You know, there's many quote-unquote grown-ups who are still children, you know, and then there's even fewer real elders, you know, who can fill that role. So I think it's super important, and that was actually one of the main reasons why we wanted to interview you, because we, you know, at least I feel that you're a matriarch in the ecology. So it's super important to be able to hold up that knowledge and make sure that it's respected and protected, and that you're able to do as much reproduction of that knowledge as possible.
And it's also not the question of the actual content as much as it is what comes with the experience and with the living as well, right? So that is not something that you can just transform into just knowledge and give someone, right? But it's rather a process that you, as you said, that you yourself need to also kind of figure out how to do it, how to do it together with other people, and how to be an elder that is also acknowledged as one, right? That
exactly. So it's a two-way kind of thing.
Exactly, a two-way thing. And maybe I'm thinking of the Western sort of culture and agricultural history, the short industrial history that we have. It has wiped out the elderly sort of intergenerational traditions in the sense that the intensive industrial agricultural practices, those elders of those practices are not the ones probably that we want to learn from, like in the future. So somehow there is this disconnection, intergenerational disconnection between how to be an elder with wisdom of ecology rather than with wisdom of technology.
Yeah, right. That's such a good way to put it. Yeah, exactly. It's nice also to feel, I mean, being in this age, and okay, there's new things I can take part of. It's like, wow, that's so, I mean, it's part of living, and as long it's beautiful. And to be there and to find who has gone before and who is there. And as I said before, I'm working very much with also Fredrika and Marianne, who we are the same age, or they are a little older than me, and also talking about this, of course, and how can we take this, even if I think I'm more into education than they are in just permaculture. I feel the same is happening not only in permaculture but also like in the local development here. We have a lot of organizations, associations, like and a lot of work we do, not paid work of course, but like for the local society, and I'm part of that, and there's kind of only elders there, and that is also a problem. So okay, now the young people are they wanting to do something, but they don't. They do a lot of things, and then the elders get, what are they doing? We don't understand anything. So I feel there that I'm invited to the young people, and I'm part of them, and I'm part of this. So I have I'm doing this bridge, and I have to be, okay, how can that be? And I'm kind of the only elder being part of that, because I'm used to working with a lot of young people here. So we're talking. I don't know what is right.
Well, you're also going through a sort of a transition phase, right? And that has its own dynamic as well. And I've thought a lot about that sort of the liminal phase when you're in between statuses. And it's actually quite a beautiful thing to go through. A lot of people get scared in those situations and they feel like anxious or whatever. But if you can sort of let nature just sort of fall into the arms of nature in a sense, and just trust that transition is going to be, it's going to happen one way or the other. And if you can let it happen in a beautiful way, then you can sort of flow with it. And just enjoy the transition. I mean, it's a whole new chapter in your life. There's like all these things that you've been managing that you won't be managing anymore. And that'll free you up to do, other things.
And that also goes for the local society, I guess, because like, okay, now we have these elder groups with older people who think that they know exactly how to organize this local society, and then the young ones say, we should do this, different ways to organize, and maybe, okay, we will see. I mean, I think that is also something in our society. Everything has to go very fast.
Yeah.
I was thinking with a friend, we were just elaborating on one of Luby's. She has 7 ways of thinking differently, and one is like, okay, think of the future, or future thinking. I think that's how she put it. And we were working on that, and I so very intensely thought of, okay, time here is to have. Just to give things time. I like to be ally with them time, not to be in a hurry. And I think everything is okay. We are in a hurry because it's a catastrophe. Right. But being in a hurry does not make us have good decisions. No. And I think it's just better to if we just not mean sit back, but be alert and awake. And I think you understand what I mean. But it's like.
Being present,
yeah. And maybe it's not the right thing to have solar cells and everything and just to make all these solar cells and we will solve it. No, maybe solar cells, yeah, fine. There is something there. And I know when I talk about this, I think some friends are they're so provoked because it's like, okay, but we're in a hurry. But it does not help us.
This really resonates with me because my life before was all like full pace, doing politics and business and trying everywhere to find urgent solutions to an urgent crisis. After a while, I realized, well, if everybody just slowed down, we would be burning much less.
Exactly.
It's all about the problem is there. It's just we're doing too much of everything. And if you look at it like I look at it also in terms of order and disorder, in the universe, and the more work you do, the more. In many ways, the more disorder you're creating because you're burning all this energy to do all this work. Yeah. Whereas if you can slow down and find a way to do it in a more natural flow energy, then you can maybe get into a less destructive, a more orderly way of doing it. Yeah. And that's what nature teaches us too, right? I mean,
I think David Harmon, he's a master. And he has the maximum power law. Sometimes you can just race your car and go very fast, but it takes a lot of energy and you don't really, you don't come so far. So it can be like the optimal technology, but also pace.
Yeah.
I think if we are in an optimum situation and that's a natural law. I think we just force things. I have a daughter and she has a heart struggling. She's 30 and life is so hard for these young people because everything is so fast. We're still like biological creatures that don't like fast things.
No, we don't. Good stress factors, constantly. Thanks so much, Helena, for inviting us to come here.